Chapter 12, Exploring the Cosmos. Bashan and his group broke forth through the waves and into the cosmos, fully arrayed with recently revealed star clusters. The herd was amazed at the number of new stars that had appeared since the Eternal Tree assembly, but no one spoke because Bashan was driving the herd forward. He realized that with each cluster that was revealed, the outer edge was moving further out, requiring a greater combination of sonic blasts from the Abirs. Bashan thoroughly knew the cosmos and the outer edge. He spotted the point at which the last expansion had taken place before they had all gathered on afar. "Men, stop," Bashan ordered. "Why here? The outer edge is still much further out," asked one of the Abirs in the front of the herd. "We need to position ourselves for a grid search. In this formation, we can best sweep both the area of the present outer edge as well as where it has recently revealed its treasures." "How many of you know the difference between a standard treasure and a unique treasure?" Bashan asked, trying to learn what the group did and did not know. "I think I can speak for the herd, Bashan," the same Abir responded. "We have always traveled together on our occasional searches and have shared experiences. We have witnessed the uncovering of stars, musical instruments, and coded messages that have been sent to a dam. We have watched star clusters reveal their majestic colors. Are these the things you speak of as standard treasures?" "Very well." Bashan was satisfied with this answer. "Does your herd know the common landmarks for the directions of the outer edge? Those which are not tied to the stones of fire? They are especially important since the stones are in a disarray." "Yes." "Name them." "To the east, beside the main entrance to Salem from the cosmos, you have a rhythm of light which dances over the retreating darkness of the outer edge. To the north, beside the entrance to the northern sector, you have a multitude of star clusters with radiant groups of colored light. This portion is commonly known for the reflection of the 24 stars from above the northern sector throne. Then we have the west, which provides another grand entrance into Elenthial. This area is remarkable for its lack of treasures. Besides the 2 trumpets found there, I am not sure of any other significant findings. Last, we have the south. It is known for the realm of the regions that are nestled in the dimension just above the outer edge. The realm of the regions is linked to the outer edge's overall movement due to a fluttering of a sheer pearl-white material that moves by the wind of the southern region and is also found outside the region's doors. The Abir had earned his stripes by his answer. "The realm of the regions was my favorite stop during the tour," Miklehi said to Connor. "Mine too," Connor replied, "and you cracked me up when you jumped back into the shuttle." "Well, I thought there was no floor," Miklehi retorted with a laugh. He was loud enough that the other children started laughing with him at the memory of the realm of the regions. During their tour, before they had been escorted into the theater, they had re-entered Elenthial from the southernmost part of the cosmos. This section housed the area called the Realm of the Regions and could be accessed through the cosmos as well as Elenthial. The regions were actually the 4 corners of Elenthial: east, north, south, and west. The 4 corners were attached at the bottom of the universe. Visitors were not permitted into the regions without an invitation. They could only go as far as the region door's threshold and look in, for each had only one entrance and exit. The children had exited the shuttle with a series of stretches and bends as several of them bent over. A cry rang out. "Rashawn, where is the floor?" Simon had asked nervously. Instantly, the others had looked down. "I'm back in the shuttle," Miklehi had announced as he hopped back on board. Rashawn had stood confidently and assured them, "Things are not always as they seem. Do you see the set of 4 doors in the distance? We need to select a starting point," Rashawn had said as he moved toward the eastern door. The children hesitantly stepped forward. Miklehi carefully exited the shuttle again and walked closely beside Connor. "If I'm going down, so are you," Miklehi murmured to Connor. "After everything we have seen today," Connor said, "how can you be afraid of this? Rashawn is standing and we are following in his steps, so we will all be fine. But I don't want to get behind just in case. Come on." The 2 boys rushed to the center of the group. With a new enthusiasm, the children had followed Rashawn. The 4 doors were arranged in such a way that they created a lobby area between them. The lobby narrowed as they approached the doors. The 4 doors were arranged in a staggered V formation. The closest door to Rashawn happened to be the eastern region. Rashawn and the children had eagerly approached the open door. When the children looked in the western doorway, they saw an odd creature pacing. It was an adult lion with wings. They had also seen what looked like a fireworks display. Colorful bursts of lights magnified the lion's mane from behind. When the creature moved, they had seen to the left a fenced-in area with a schooner-style ship and a large bronze carafe inside. Suddenly, the creature had returned into view. The group felt unwelcome and had moved away from the entrance as the creature moved back and blocked their view. "Rashawn, what is that thing walking around in there?" Simon whispered. "Confused? And did you see the way he eyed us after we saw that ship?" Connor blurted out. "He didn't look confused to me, Connor," Alyssa remarked. "He looked like he knew exactly what he was doing, telling us it was time to go." Rashawn had tried to address Simon's original question but decided to let the children work it out themselves. He knew that they would understand his role before their journey was over. He motioned to the children to move to the door of the northern region. Again, the children had not been able to go beyond the threshold, and no one wanted to either. The creature guarding the doorway to the northern region was an eagle with a fiery serpent around his waist. Behind the creature was a massive altar made of huge, uncut stone. The serpent's job was to strike all unwelcome guests before they could approach the altar. Once they had stepped back into the lobby, the comments flew. "That was cool! What do you call that kind of belt? What is the altar for? What is the serpent's problem? That thing was a serpent?" Rashawn waited as the children threw out the questions and comments. None of them had addressed him or even expected any answers. While the children continued chattering, Rashawn led them to the next door. The children realized the doors were further apart than they had appeared. It took them longer to travel between the doors than they had anticipated. The next door was to the southern region. This proved to be an interesting stop. Rashawn had led the children to the entrance and peeked through the open door. To his and the children's amazement, there stood a man that looked like one of them, a Palos. His eyes had sparkled as he stomped out the beat of his song. His voice was wrapped around a symphony of instruments whose source was never understood. To the left of the doorway had been a wide road lined with burning coals. To the right of the doorway, a narrow road lined with bloody prints. This had confounded the children. Rashawn, on the other hand, had smiled and shaken the man's hand with a confident proclamation, "We will see you later." Then he led the children away and toward the last door. "Rashawn, what do you mean, we will see you later?" Sarah posed. "I mean just that," Rashawn replied. "We will come across him as well as the others on our journey here. As the journey continues, it will all come together." "Can you explain those bloody prints?" Micklehee demanded. "I can, but this is not the place. There are parts of this tour that are meant to pique your curiosity and to give you hints of what is to come. It is not my place to uncover them for you, but for them to be revealed to you at their appointed time," Rashawn stated in an encouraging voice. "We have one more door to peer into. Let us move in that direction and see what it holds." The western region was the last door and had proven to be the most inviting. When they arrived at the threshold, they had been invited in and waited on by a herd of oxen. The oxen had spoken very well and shared some customs of the western region. However, these customs were not to be shared with anyone outside of the group until the story of old was complete. The children hated to leave the oxen, for they had felt so warm and loved in their presence. But Rashawn reminded them that they would see them again, for the book of Tabnithiod had many more chapters to be read. He had directed their steps past the rows of basins filled with water. Some contained fish and others pearls. They had waved goodbye to the oxen as they exited the western region and headed back to their shuttle. "I like them," Megan had stated. "Do you promise we will see them again?" "Those oxen spoke better than me," Micklehee had said. "I speak better than you," replied Connor as he softly punched Micklehee. The two boys laughed. "Do any of you recognize those basins?" Rashawn asked, spurring their thought processes. "They resemble the basins from King Yehoshua's temple," Joshua quietly responded. "Yes, they do, Joshua. Good observation," commented Rashawn. The group had arrived back to the shuttle and continued their tour. Micklehee's grin remained as his attention returned to the present image within the theater. Bashan was pleased with the thoroughness of the Abir's response. "I see that we will work well together," he boasted as he realized his task would be easier than he had expected. "Move into the grid formation." This formation was a straight line covering the width of the recently revealed cosmos and the present outer edge. It had never been used in this large of a space before, but Bashan trusted they could do it. "Everyone is to take note of his personal area. Do not regard any of the typical discoveries. We are only looking for things out of the ordinary," Bashan stated. "Let's keep this simple." The herd spread out over the vast area and began to travel in unison, one sonic blast at a time. Bashan placed himself in the center of the line and directed from that position. Those closest to the stones of fire saw no changes in the east or in the north. The middle group found only a couple of newly formed instruments and some stars that oddly refused to shine. The outer group that was exploring the shelf of the outer edge saw very few findings worth noting. The most eastern section, where the entrance to Salem stood, was now fully walled off, with a bulging component resembling a strong gate or door. The rhythmic light could only be seen moving under the bulging component. The northern section was also closed off in the same manner as the east. The noteworthy change here was the mixed colors within the newly formed clusters of stars. They had never seen the colors mixed within one cluster. They attributed this phenomenon to their inability to see the 24 stars' reflection. The herd gathered after inspecting the two portions and compared notes. Bashan committed all comments to memory and then ordered the workers to return to their positions. Infirmity took the lead of his Abirs as they blasted through the waves toward Rahab. Everyone was immediately puzzled because the stone was no longer there. "Where is Rahab?" Infirmity asked Jealousy. The two halted the herd. "Did Sar say anything about destroying Rahab?" Infirmity pulled closely to Jealousy. "The Tree of Knowledge did destroy Sar's palace. Maybe it destroyed the entire stone." "What happened to the stones of fire?" one of the Abirs frantically cried. Jealousy and Infirmity's conversation ended when they turned and observed the stones of fire's strange alignment. "And look how far the outer edge has traveled," another Abir added. Small lights were emerging from the outer edge as it rapidly expanded. The leader's excitement was squashed. "The other group will not be able to track their findings." "There are too many treasures being revealed," acknowledged Infirmity. Jealousy had to force himself from sounding panicked as he spoke. "When our investigation of the stones is complete, we will go to the outer edge and assist them." He then examined the stones of fire's new order and tried to identify something familiar. "We seem to be close to the center. I have identified 4 of the stones by their colors. That one that is the furthest out must be Rahab. But why is it glowing?" Infirmity questioned as he started moving them toward the glowing stone. As they neared, they could see that parts of the stone were ablaze. The surface resembled an incandescent basaltic lava flow that covered the entire stone. Countless mini explosions were occurring and flames shot forth from the blackened ground where Sar's palace once stood. This display was quite a light show. Jealousy stopped the group. "Change of plans. Infirmity, take one Abir with you and go investigate Rahab further while the rest of us go to a dam." Infirmity chose a partner and they headed toward Rahab. The Outer Edge expedition was moving right along. Although it expanded at a faster rate, very few findings proved to be of any significance. The two Abirs exploring the shelf had moved together out of boredom. They were far enough away from Bashan for him to notice. One Abir kept trying to lead up and touch the walls of Alenthial but had no success. His partner was the first to hear a low whistling sound coming from up ahead. "Do you hear that?" he asked, not sure what to make of the noise. The other Abir stopped bouncing around. His ears twitched as he tried to identify it. "Sounds like a broken wind." "I think we need to get Bashan," his partner suggested as he jetted off. The first Abir was not sure what to do, so he continued to move toward the whistling sound. As he moved closer, the sound got louder, and he noticed his hair and mane begin to lift off his body as if electrical static was moving through the air. "Maybe I should wait for my partner," he thought, but his curiosity got the best of him. When the second Abir informed Bashan of the noise, he ordered the grid search to halt. The Abir rose above the outer edge and found the most critical treasure of them all, a massive portal containing a shining silver chest tipped over on its side. As he moved toward the portal to look deeper inside, Bashan and the other Abir were arriving at the scene. The two of them watched him move in closer. There was a moment of confusion as the Abir looked as if he were struggling to move back, yet continued to move forward into the portal. Then a flash from the Abir's Zood covering exploded as he disappeared into the blackness. "What just happened?" the first Abir cried out. "Follow me." Bashan moved his men higher into the cosmos for a clearer look into the portal. This position removed them from the portal's pulling force. They were directly above the blackness. Inside the portal, they could see a thick black mass which fully engulfed the space. Only shadows could be seen moving within its boundaries. Bashan needed to know more. "Move toward the portal," Bashan commanded the Abir. "No, I'm not going to be sucked into that thing. The force is only directly in front of the black hole. You need not get that close. Now go to complete your report." Bashan gave him a slight push forward. Bashan was really sending him so he could see the range of the force coming from the portal. The Abir reluctantly moved ahead in a slow trot. Bashan made sure to count his steps so he could have an accurate record. 26, 27, 28, he continued to himself, 30, and the Abir was gone. By his figuring and calculations of the strength of the portal's draw, he accredited the Stones of Fire's movement to the portal. He took a mental note with a sense of satisfaction that his mission was now successful because he had found a source to blame for the changes of the stone's positions. "Did that Abir die?" questioned Megan. "Cool. That would be the first death ever," Connor exclaimed as he rallied the boys. "You don't know he died," Rachel said, looking back at the boys. "Rashawn, did he die?" Rashawn would have preferred to continue reading, but knew the way he handled this would be vital to their understanding of the Asoavel. He bent the corner of the page and closed the book. This time the screen did not freeze. It went completely black. Rashawn felt that Orr closed the screen to add effect for this topic. Before the children's conversation could go any further, Rashawn began. "Connor, we are witnessing the first type of death, but we have made death much more complicated than it really is. Simply put, it is the separation from Orr's light. Death is a byproduct of the entrance of the Asoavel into the cosmos. The angelics do not experience death like we, the Paloses, do. Their bodies are eternal, so they are not separated from them. Therefore, from that perspective, he is not dead. There will be no death as we know it until the second age." Rashawn took a breath. He studied the expressions of the children that had been entrusted to him. He saw mixed expressions, for not all the children had witnessed a death during the kingdom of peace on afar. After a moment or two of silence, Joshua asked, "So is that wall around Alentheal there so that the Asoavel can't get in?" "Once again, Joshua, you impress me with your insight," said Rashawn. "Remember how we traveled freely between the heavens on our tour? Before the Asoavel entered the cosmos, the angelics could move freely as well. The walls were erected when the Alentheal host was established. Do you recall who the Alentheal host is? It is Orr's army. Alentheal is not completely closed off from the cosmos. Orr allows the four main entrances to exist. These entrances have a future purpose." Rashawn returned to his marked page, and the screen lit up with a brilliant light. This made it easy for Rashawn to find his place in the book. With Rashawn's words, the Abirs were back in action on the screen, moving toward Bashan. By now, the rest of the Abirs in the line had been waiting long enough to be curious about what was happening. When Bashan looked up from his memorization, half the herd was staring at the portal and its dark shadows swirling around, while some of the others were staring up at the massive western gate of Alentheal. "I recognize that building," said one of the Abirs. Those looking at the gate moved higher to peek through the gate's slats. "That looks like a dam's communication center," responded one of them. "How would that have gotten there?" No one answered, for no one knew. They called for Bashan. Bashan had already been called by some of the Abirs that had moved below the portal and spotted a stream of dark gray mist drifting out of it. The mist appeared to be drawn out by the sucking wind, which was pulling on the Stones of Fire much like a backdraft. "Someone find out where that mist is going," Bashan ordered. The others felt the severity of his words and panic came over each one. "Sir," an Abir responded, I did follow it, and it feeds into the darkness of the outer edge. I found no other trail. The air of Elinthial was electrified. The crowd packed in tightly to listen to Orr's welcome and instructions. He leaned over and gestured to 3 of his men. After whispering some details to them, Orr stood and spoke. Shatar, Nagad, and Uriel will separate you into 4 groups. Your groups will be made up of a combination of angelics. We must work together, for an enemy has risen against us. After his brief announcement, Orr moved into the Elinthial hall. He left Shatar, Nagad, and Uriel in charge of the crowd. Orr walked into the hall and stood next to the table of happenings. He pulled up an overview of the present cosmos and watched Sar's men investigate it. He sighed at the size of the portal and the knowledge that Sar's angelics would soon be filled with the Asoavel, which would then give them full access to the cosmos. Upon this reflection, Orr separated into his 3 beings again. Sar is now tied to the portal, Kohengal said. The Asoavel has already moved into the outer edge. The remaining reflections of Elinthial have been removed. Soon it will envelop the cosmos. Jealousy addressed the remaining Abirs as they approached a dam. We will go to Sidon first. From there, we will separate to investigate the rest of the Red Stone. As they flew over the capital city of Adam, they noticed it looked somewhat different. While most of Sidon's structures remained, the domed communications center had disappeared. The Abirs went down to survey the surface. "Where is Nagad's headquarters?" asked an Abir from the group. They were standing in the middle of a giant depression where Nagad's headquarters once stood. "Good question," Jealousy stated while the group anxiously searched. "I wonder if Sar's words caused the ground to swallow it up." Thoughts of Kohengal and the other revolting angelic's fate came to his mind. "We must complete our inspection of Adam and the other stones. Sar will have the answers." Shortly after the group had reassembled, they noticed Infirmity coming toward them. His appearance had changed. When he met them, he was panicked and confused. "What happened to you, and why are you alone?" Jealousy inquired. "He's gone," Infirmity managed to get out in between breaths. "What do you mean, he's gone? Where did he go?" Infirmity shakily motioned in the direction of Rahab. "He is on Rahab." Jealousy was confused. "Calm down and tell me what happened." Infirmity forced himself to breathe deeply and slowly in order to calm himself enough to answer. "Rahab is spewing fire that we could actually feel. The closer we got, the more intense the blaze felt. I could not bear it, so I stopped. My partner went a little further before stopping, but it was too late." "What do you mean, it was too late?" "A flare pulled him in." He turned back and stared at the burning stone. "He was making an awful noise." The remaining group could not help but stare at their fellow Abir's appearance. Although Infirmity had stopped before his partner, he still bore marks from Rahab's heat. The small amount of hair he had remaining was darker and smoke rose from his mane. Infirmity was burned and visibly in pain. "I am all right. I am relieved my fate was not that of my partner," he noted with a hint of satisfaction. The others in the group kept a distance from him as they continued their investigation of the stones. The remaining Abirs headed for the southern portion of the outer edge. The formation they occupied was spread much further to compensate for the members they lost in the portal. Due to the unfolding events in the west, each Abir had become more alert and focused on their task at hand. Bashan traveled behind his group, who were now moving at a slightly slower pace. Bashan traveled this way to ensure that the Abirs in his herd left no detail uncovered, and to offer safety in case the herd stumbled upon something dangerous. So far, this last phase was proving uneventful. Bashan's thoughts started drifting. What could be causing the outer edge to suddenly move so rapidly? The portal in the west is drawing its surroundings into it, yet the size of the cosmos is multiplying at a remarkable pace. There must be a connection. But what? Bashan had taken for granted the fact that the outer edge constantly moved and had never questioned the reason for the movement. He found himself regretting not paying closer attention to the details before this. He was convinced this information held the missing link that would connect the portal and the movement of the outer edge. Bashan's thoughts were suddenly interrupted when one of the members from the inner line, those closest to the stones of fire, joined him. "Sir, I have spotted a strange occurrence in the distance. I do not know what to make of it," the Abir reported. He continued when he realized he had Bashan's full attention. "Look, toward the stones. Do you see it?" "See what?" "I am not sure, but there appears to be something out there. Watch the stones very carefully as we travel." Bashan thought he noticed something as he moved forward. From their position, there appeared to be a gap between them and one of the stones. Momentarily, the white stone Zohar disappeared. This obtrusion could only be detected as it passed inside their direct line of vision. Bashan scanned the inner cosmos, searching for similar occurrences, but found none. "We will look into it once we have completed the search of the outer edge." Zohar was the stone of fire that resembled a magnificent large diamond. The children had visited it during their tour. It was the exclusive residence of the Isham. Their craftsmanship was evident in their homes. Each building was covered in a stunning opaque and sheer fabrics that fluttered in the breezes on the stone. The stone was separated into 4 residential quadrants that mirrored each other. The only difference between the areas was the directions of the quadrants' public squares. Abaddon had designed the public squares to imitate the general layout of Sar's palace, and this feature was only recognizable from the air. The children were practicing putting the clues together because Rashawn had told them that everything was linked. "How exactly do the Isoavel and the cosmos fit together?" asked Mia. Rashawn stopped reading and looked up from the page. Before he said a word, Aaron asked him, "Can I try to answer that, Rashawn?" "Sure." "If I remember correctly," Aaron started to talk her way through her thought process, "the outer edge is pulling the portal away from the stones, but the stones are being pulled into the portal. This means that the outer edge has to move faster so that the stones of fire don't catch up with the portal and disappear like the Abir did. Is that right?" "Well, I think that definitely plays a role in it, Aaron," Rashawn responded, "but it is a little more involved than that. It is at the mercy of Or that the portal is being sped up. You see, the cosmos will be filled with a certain amount of Isoaphel before the first battle of rebellion begins. Since the outer edge is expanding the cosmos so rapidly, the gray mist will not be as potent as if the cosmos had continued on in its previous expansion rate. It is the same idea as Or minimizing the impact of a collision. There is another reason for this accelerated rate. All of the hidden treasures of the outer edge must be revealed before the second age. We have already heard Or speak of the closing of the first age. Therefore, the remaining treasures should soon be revealed." Rashawn's next words were from the Book of Tabnithiod. The southern portion of the outer edge had been examined, and all of the Abirs had regrouped around Bashan. None of us have found anything of significance, but the 2 searching the shelf area did report that the sheer material often spotted over the darkness of the outer edge was missing, said the Abir who had broken out of line earlier. "What about that occurrence I showed you? Do you think we should go and investigate that now?" he suggested. The other Abirs started chatting among themselves. "What occurrence?" was heard echoing throughout the conversations. Bashan glared at the Abir. He was not interested in discussing that topic at the moment. "We have not completed our mission in this region. We still need to inspect the realm of the regions for any changes," Bashan informed them, ignoring the recent discussion. Upon arriving in the realm of the regions, the Abirs were quick to notice the piles of sheer pearl white fabric gathered near the doors, almost at the top of each door's cornice. "Bashan, is this the same fabric that moved over the outer edge that we no longer see?" an Abir asked. "I do not know why it would have bunched up into the realm of the regions. However, maybe this is the reason for the northern region's door being opened," Bashan replied. Each of the 4 doors was ajar. Bashan wanted to venture beyond the threshold of the northern region's door, but was reminded of the 2 Abirs they had lost. He devised a plan. "You," Bashan called to the Abir who spoke earlier, "move to the northern region door and peer into it. Tell us if the altar still stands." Reluctantly, the Abir accepted the assignment. He moved cautiously between the other region's doors. At the northern region door, the Abir crept up to the space next to the door's opening. He glanced back at Bashan, hoping to be called back. Bashan signaled to him to continue. The Abir thrust his head into the cracked door and then quickly pulled it back. Nothing happened. He breathed a sigh of relief. Bashan was surprised to see the Abir still standing, considering he knew how well guarded the altar had been. "Has the eagle departed?" he thought. "Who is guarding the altar?" Bashan quietly probed. "What do you see?" "I think I saw the altar. It was bare." Bashan then signaled for him to venture in for a further inspection. He thought to himself, "If the eagle and serpent have departed, Sar will have full access to that altar. But if not, either way it works out to my advantage." His gaze hardened as he compelled the Abir to move forward. The Abir did as instructed. He picked up his hoof and slowly lowered it over the threshold. As he shifted his weight to take another step, he knocked the door open wider. The sound of the cracking door rang like a clap of thunder. The Abir froze. Those looking on held their breath in suspense. Everyone was listening carefully for movement behind the northern region's door, but all was silent. Comforted by the silence, the Abir nodded to assure the others that he was continuing on. Before his next step was completed, the sound of a rushing wind filled the hall where the others stood as the eagle landed. Swiftly, the serpent lashed out at the Abir, wrapping around his torso and dragging him inside. The door slammed shut. Immediately, the piles of fabric began to flail, rising above the door's cornices, swelling to fill the heavens of the realm of the regions. The hall emptied as the onlooking Abirs stampeded for the cosmos. They did not slow until they had cleared the outer edge. As the herd cleared the outer edge, Bashan realized he was close to the area where he had witnessed the strange occurrence. "Halt! This is a good place to regroup," Bashan ordered. He took a moment to collect his thoughts and then internalized that region's report. "There is something else we need to examine. As we were traveling from the western portion of the outer edge, I noticed something peculiar in the direction of the stones of fire. I was unable to identify the potential treasure, but I am sure of its existence. Everyone go back to your positions for another grid search. We will be traveling towards Zohar, which is now located next to Afar. That stone is the focal point of our formation. You are to report anything strange to me," he commanded. Bashan remained behind the group as they assumed their position within the formation and combed the area. Nothing strange or out of the ordinary was discovered until the group neared the stones of fire. Bashan heard a loud noise coming from the western end of the line. He hurried to the section. "What happened?" Bashan asked the first Abir he came across. "I am not sure. I had Afar in my sight when suddenly the stone started disappearing, like something was moving in front of it. But I did not see an obstruction. Then I collided with something." Bashan was baffled. He knew something had happened because he heard the loud noise from the two Abirs. He looked around and saw nothing. "Stay here. I must speak to the other Abir." As Bashan began to travel toward the other Abir, he suddenly had the sensation that he had moved behind a curtain. The stones of fire that lay just in front of him were no longer visible. He moved slightly forward and felt a solid surface that was merely reflecting the scenery from behind him. It was cool to the touch and slightly damp. He rushed to the other Abir who relayed a similar story. Once again he could see the stones of fire. He blasted toward Afar to get in front of the object. Satisfied he had traveled far enough, he turned to view the object. He was taken back at what stood before him and immediately signaled the herd. Upon arrival, the group stood in awe as they viewed the massive object. It was rectangular with the shortest sides on top and bottom. "It looks like a giant door," exclaimed one of them. "What do you think it leads to?" asked another. Bashan shot them a condescending look. "Two Abirs ran into it from behind, and I traveled directly behind it. There is nothing on the other side," he stated. The Abirs knew that this door had not been revealed through the outer edge, but was placed there after their assembly on Afar. No herd had ever uncovered a door in the cosmos, and this door hung directly in line with Afar for a reason that was unknown to them. Zohar and Rebetz were the last stones Jealousy's herd visited. Zohar was on the other side of Afar and appeared to have not changed. Rebetz, however, proved to be considerably different. The fields of wheat, barley, and corn had become stiff. The crops were no longer edible. The stone gave the Abirs the opposite sensation they had felt while they were close to Rahab. By the end of the survey, their skin felt prickly and their bodies began to shake. Jealousy stood on one of the hills of Rebets looking in all directions, trying to make sense of the changes to the stones. Rahab is burning and Rebets is freezing. How did this happen? He was thinking when he noticed something in the distance. I believe the other group is approaching. Is Rebets so cold because it is far away from their new son, Rahab? Andrew asked. An odd thing happened when he asked his question. The screen froze. Usually, Rashawn had to pause or actually stop reading for the screen to become still, but for an unknown reason, Andrew's question did the trick. Rahab is not their son. Even though the cosmos has dimmed, the residual light from Elinthial does not require a sun. And while Rahab is producing heat that the angelics are not familiar with, it is not heating the cosmos. Rahab is burning because Ur sent the coals through the vortex to stop the spreading of the tree. Rebets' freezing has something to do with the drawing of the portal on the stones. It is only affecting that one stone. The others, as well as the cosmos, are at a comfortable, stable temperature. The screen moved and Rashawn instantly continued reading. Bashan led his group toward the other group on Rebets. His stature was unmistakable in comparison to the others. Jealousy stepped forward to speak. I did not expect to see your group so soon because of the numbers of treasures being uncovered. We have gathered enough information to report to Sar. All of the Abirs in existence could not document what is being uncovered in the outer edge, claimed Bashan. Jealousy appeared uneasy with Bashan's response. We will return to Afar. Bashan, you will join me in my meeting with Sar to give the report on the outer edge. He glanced over to Infirmity. I do not think it would be wise for you to go before Sar. Infirmity was not in the mood to argue and simply agreed.